Okay, awesome. We already have a handful of folks.
Perfect.
Um, cool. Hello, Nicole. We got, I see 8 people already in the chat. Folks, if you're in the chat, just drop in where you're tuning in from. We're going to be taking questions throughout the whole period. So if you already have some, you're welcome to drop one in. But we're going to start in just a couple of minutes here. Nicole, in the meantime, can you tell us your favorite vegetable?
Favorite vegetable? That's a hard one. Actually, I really love vegetables, but I'm gonna have to go with cucumbers because you can just eat them
You
as
just eat
they
them plain.
are, but then you can add like a little salt and pepper or put them in a salad. So yeah, I'm
Very
gonna have to go
sophisticated.
with the cucumbers. Although I despise it's kind of the similar thing with grapes. The idea of like cucumber flavor, like cucumber water, grosses
Mm-hmm.
me out. I just want the
No, that's
cucumber,
terrible.
not
No,
the
that's
flavor.
minus 10 points from Gryffindor for cucumber water. I'm all the way out. Um,
I'm glad you agree.
I, I definitely agree. I think I would have to go with zucchini. I'm a big zucchini fan. Putting those guys on the barbecue, the little spices on them. Good
And
stuff.
zucchini noodles, like they're multi faceted, you know?
Yeah, but you got to eat them right when you buy them. If you let
Yeah,
those things sit for 3 days, which I did once, that was not an enjoyable experience.
that was not probably one of your best moments, Alex.
No, it wasn't. So personal story, embarrassing personal story. Back in the day, one of my summer jobs was as a tripper. I don't know if you're familiar with, like, you ever go backwoods camping or stuff like that.
No, not too much.
Okay. So
I'm more of
especially,
a
I'm sure,
camp in an RV person. Like we have a travel trailer. That's
okay.
our
Well,
level.
that's fun. That is fun stuff. But if you're a little more low tech, it's definitely very popular in Canada, but I'm sure in the Midwest as well. But basically, you go to a provincial park or I guess state park in the States and you grab tents and whatever. First time I did it, I took kids out on a trip. I didn't know properly how to make pasta. I didn't know you had to drain the water.
Oh,
So I added the stuff in and everything. We had very soupy pasta. And then I
well, it's
got,
kind of like
uh,
top ramen noodles. Then you essentially made
yeah,
top ramen.
that would be the most generous interpretation of what we ate. I was put on remedial camping trips after that till I could prove that I could do some basic cooking with the kids and not make them suffer. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, not my proudest moment. It's been a long journey for me cooking. Now it's past
Baby step.
baby steps indeed. Um, okay, wonderful. Well, I think we've got still some people that are streaming in a little bit. So, folks, if you're in the chat, feel free to drop your questions and we'll get to them as many as we can. We're going to start off with a little bit of an overview of um, essentially the role, the company, Nicole, what she's looking for, all that kind of stuff, which I think is good general information for everyone to have. These days, a lot of job descriptions are sometimes written by the HR department. And so that can lead to some confusion sometimes, when they want 20 years of experience for whatever kind of role or technological things that haven't happened yet. Favorite story was a friend of mine runs a company called VoiceFlow, which is they do conversational enabled technologies. And in the job description, it once said 7 years of VoiceFlow experience. And he's like, we've only been around for 6. So I don't know how that's possible.
So
So job descriptions. Cool. So why don't we kick things off? Nicole, can you tell us 2 things? One is a little bit about HoneyBook and what that is, what you guys do. And then I would love to also hear a little bit about the role the research team plays in the team's overall success at HoneyBook.
perfect. Okay, so HoneyBook is I've for years tried to nail down that one liner of HoneyBook, but essentially we're a business management platform for small independent service providers. So you can think of everything from photographers to event planners, marketers, consultants. And we are really kind of that all-in-one place where they can come in from the very first point of contact with a lead and manage every aspect of that client relationship and the projects that they're working on. So the great thing when you think of HoneyBook for small businesses is we really are a partner to our users, and we're there kind of side by side with them along the way. the exciting part of that with our product is that we are a very robust product. There's many different facets of HoneyBook, many different areas in which we're helping these small businesses. So there's never a dull moment of open questions when it comes to research and what are the areas that we're helping to try to like focus on with these businesses. So I think then when we think of like how the research team plays a role, research was brought in very early into HoneyBook. I actually have been there for 9 years as of this month. So I came in early as a consultant. And from the very beginning, with the co-founders of the company, it was important that everything that we were doing, like we were connecting with the businesses we were building for. So research was central to not only like how we were building it, but what is it that we should be focusing on, being that there are so many different aspects of a business that we could be helping with. Today, research is very, like, while we're on the product, like the core product team, you'll see aspects of the research insights across the org. So whether it's through marketing or the way that we're doing our education, we're connected well with customer success. And then we're constantly looking at how do we ensure that people across the company really understand who it is that we're building this product for and like how is it impacting their lives.
I love that. And it's probably really nice to work at a company that believed in power of research early on.
Yeah.
Probably set you up for success there. And it's great to see you've been there for so long. It's a good testament to what it is to work there. And speaking of working there, can you talk a bit about the culture on the team that you try and foster? And like, there's a lot of different ways that research teams can work with other parts of the business, can work with each other, collaborate with each other in a team. Can you talk a bit about, what are the kinds of cultural aspects to working on this team that you think really leads somebody to have a successful time there?
Yep. So I would say when it comes to our culture in general and like very much across the research team, like we're very much a collaborative team. And when I say collaborative, that's not like, I think that's both within the research team itself. So while most of the researchers are embedded into certain parts of the product, there's not a researcher on the team that also doesn't understand kind of what's happening across research within the org. So we're extremely collaborative. I think at the same time, like when you look at the HoneyBook core values, like one of them is that we keep it real. And I think that is like one of the core values that really is ingrained into the research as well. We're very much in an environment where we're able to kind of have that space to make sure that like we're keeping it real, both internally in the company, but also making sure that we're keeping it real, like with what is happening with our users and what is the feedback that's coming in and how is that actually translating to the product that we're building. The culture, the company in general, it's hard to explain, but there's something about the people of HoneyBook that it's one of the main reasons I've also been there for 9 years. It's a really strong camaraderie, but at the same time, there's just a lot of brilliant minds, and everybody has that space to be able to make an impact, no matter like where they're at within the company.
I love that. Actually, Shivani, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is one of my questions, but I think you posed it really nicely, so I'll throw it on the screen here. But can you talk a little bit about, I guess this is both the impetus for the role, right? Because this is for a pretty senior role focusing on new markets. And Shivani was wondering what was what drove the decision to explore new markets at this particular stage for the company compared to like focusing on existing markets. And I guess let's ask the follow-up as well. Like, what role do we hope that this researcher will play in that?
Perfect. Okay, so just historically, to give a little bit of context, when HoneyBook first started, it was essentially like an event. The market or the audience was very much geared towards events. So it was photographers, event planners, florists, anything that was in that realm of like the event space. So that was kind of that core audience at the very beginning. I would say about 4.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, we realized in order to grow as a company, we realized that one, naturally, we were starting to see other audiences outside of events that had a lot of the same needs. But also along the growth side, we wanted to make sure that we were able to expand beyond events, looking at the TAM, knowing that like that might not be the enough of an audience for us to get to where we wanted to come. As we look at where we're at today, so we have now, like, we've definitely expanded the breadth of the creative entrepreneurs that we're bringing into HoneyBook. This particular role, as we're talking about new markets, we're really looking at opportunities for even within the business and company types that we're looking at. Like, what does it mean for us to go up market? How do we actually start to bring in more experienced businesses and maybe potentially larger businesses? We have a lot of theories of what our market means. So I'm just going to say up market because that's a big piece of this role, is to actually help define like what does that actually look like. So again, as a company, we've seen that we do have some of these like up market type businesses currently using HoneyBook. What we're doing is this is actually, so from the leadership side, we have all of our company objectives for 2025, and they actually created an objective around this like new markets, up market idea. And the idea is that we'll eventually build a team, like a full team out to be able to ensure that we have like product market fit for whatever this market is. So this role is really going to be coming in at a defining moment to not just to build out this team, but to actually help like identify like what are the opportunities, where should we be going, does it make sense to hit those markets, and what does that actually look like? So it'll be working with a very small core group to begin with in this like earlier stages. But the opportunity for this role is really going to help us continue beyond this like original up market of what are new audiences that we should always be looking at. What should we be thinking about ahead of time, as opposed to just when we're asking like, hey, can we get another new audience that we're bringing in?
Fantastic. I mean, one of the main reasons that, later stage startups go up market is, obviously there's more complexity in those types of businesses, but there's also a huge amount of revenue opportunity and a huge amount of growth. And, so probably means there's a lot of potential growth for this particular role.
Absolutely.
Folks, don't forget, if you have more questions, just drop them in there. You can DM me as well. One other question I think is really top of mind for people. Maybe you can talk a bit about, there's no mysteries here that there's been a lot fewer opportunities out there these days than there have been in, let's say, 2021, 2022. Can you talk a bit about, some of the ways that folks can help identify themselves as potentially really strong fits for the role? Are there certain things that when you see them, you'd be like, that is somebody that I really particularly want to talk to because they have relevant experience, or they have a particular skill set, or something along those lines? Is there anything that really fits that bill that makes you really want to initiate that conversation?
Yeah, so I think particularly with this role, it's an interesting role in the sense that like in this, like there's going to be a lot of that like IC. There's going to be this blend of like the IC role, but then also really trying to start to build out like what is market research at HoneyBook. So kind of like backtracking a little bit, and then I'll get into that. This is the first internal like more market research versus product research role at HoneyBook. We've worked with a lot of consultants and contractors when we've needed kind of these like larger market research questions. But it was really big this year. Like for me, it was important that we really started to bring this internally so that we always had a lens on like what is happening in the market, and we're preemptively able to kind of point the company in strategic directions, as opposed to as a company as asking questions and going out to look for them. So I think coming back to your question, like what am I looking for in this role? I think that there's definitely a blend of the IC, like hands-on, really wanting to like dig in and be a part of the work, and really like being in the conversations both with the marketing team and the product team as we define like what is market, and definitely like heavier on the quant, but qual is so important to HoneyBook when it comes to our users and just really understanding them. So it's not like we're not necessarily looking for someone who's just very quant mindset that has that good blend. I would say too that with this role, especially from the long term and like growth opportunities, is a little bit of the management side and like those being able to show some of those management skills. And while there might not be the direct report at the very beginning, plan for this role is that it will start to grow out like what is market research at HoneyBook and partnering with me and to really define that space. The other thing I think that when I'm looking at resumes, because I do read through all of like many of them. I'm not going to say all of them. I read through most of them myself, working with the recruiter. Is there's something around the mindset, and I think that strategic mindset, and again, being in this space where we have an opportunity of a lot of open questions and being able to help guide our team in opportunities that we could be moving into utilizing the research and insight.
Yeah, it's a great point around that mindset. Are there things like I hear the term strategic research thrown around a lot. I have some opinions about it. I think we may have discussed them in the past. One thing to throw strategic researcher at the top of your CV, right? Are there sort of signals that maybe help you understand that this person has that capability, or where when you see something, it's like, that's a signal to me they may have that. So, is it something like I drove this % change in conversion rate? Is it something like I identified this new market opportunity? Is it really speaking that business stuff, or is there a different way that you kind of interpret or identify those markers?
Okay, great question, because it's hard when I look at resumes and sometimes when I see when I see the specific percentages of like I drove this amount of growth, I always have to look at those with a little, like I need a little bit more in depth with them. And I will say, like when we're getting into interviews, that you always get those stories. I think that there's something around the way that when you're talking about leading the strategic research, how do I answer this of like looking for it in the resume? It's not so much that cut and dry moment of like, I did this, because when you look at that, you're trying to figure out like what is the role that you played in it, not that like it was just the outcome. So I think really understanding a little bit more about how your role was, like how you were able to play that part in the execution or the growth or the new market is really helpful for me. And I always definitely dig into those in the interviews as well, of kind of really diving in on, okay, how did you get there? But also what was the role you played and how did others play a part in that role? Because when I think of the strategic research side, I think that it's one thing to say that we ran the survey and like this was just the finding, but it goes beyond that in the sense of how did you get that insight to a place where it was actually actionable? And like, not only did you share it, but you were able to bring it to fruition, like building the relationships with others and bringing the marketing team into like actually executing on it, because it's not just the core finding, but how did it actually like get there? I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully,
No, I think that's great. It's I think the answer I'm taking away from it is it's not one or two things, right? It's about understanding a bigger picture, and there's only so much you can pull from the resume per se. But once you have the opportunity to have a conversation around it and really telling that full narrative of how that work transpired and who was involved in the role that you played in it, in addition to, the people you worked with on it to create that outcome, because we don't do anything on our own.
exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. We have a question from Brian, and I'm curious. I don't know if Brian's a researcher per se or just a really excited HoneyBook user, but he's very interested to know what are some of the types of features that are coming to HoneyBook as part of this growth initiative potentially, and presumably this person would be working on this role as well.
Okay, so answer in two parts. One, there's a lot of new features in general coming down the pipeline. I think for this part of this role specifically, that is actually a big open question. And it really it really is going to depend on how do we actually define the audience. So as we're talking about like up market, like you said, like we have the team, our early team and our brainstorming, like we, I think, have mapped out like 5 or 6 potential different ways we could even look at like what is upmarket and what does that look like. So with these early stages and like with this role, it's like, how do we define what is upmarket? And then based off that, we will definitely be building. So is it a matter of upmarket is the same businesses, but with a lot of teammates? Or is it that they're actually focusing on larger client sizes? And so based off those needs, we'll definitely be building out the roadmap, and that will be a big part of this role for sure. But Brian, if you email me, I'm happy to share some of the other projects that are underway, which there's a lot of teams working on a lot of exciting things this year.
No secret roadmaps will be spilled on this episode today.
Actually, I just we're going to be doing we started working on a public road, and I just saw the message the PMs are working on updating it for the 2025 stuff. We are
fantastic
doing that finally.
That's really exciting. Can you, maybe this is I think another interesting place to kind of double click on when it's a process. You apply, your resume gets read, you talk to somebody, maybe you talk to another person. Can you kind of share a little bit about what the process looks like and what you're hoping to understand at each stage? Because I think generally speaking, each stage, there's a kind of like a gate that you're trying to pass a candidate through and help them get through, where you're trying to understand another piece of the puzzle to figure out if they've got what you're looking for. So what's that process look like for you, and what are you trying to learn at each stage?
Perfect. So first off, I'll start with, just so you know, I actually did write our the role description.
Fantastic.
Every manager does write the role description. We're very much a part of it. But we do have an amazing recruiting team that's kind of there helping us refine and everything. So I will say, like, the first stage of once we're going through resumes, and like I said, I'm sifting through a lot of them. I have a recruiter that I'm partnering with on this role. So he's very connected to what it is we're looking for, and especially on like the company culture side. So that first stop is actually the touch point with the recruiter. Really just to gauge kind of background history, and also making sure that fit for, more specifically, he's looking at like fit for HoneyBook, fit within comp, like that we're going to not be moving forward where it doesn't make sense either for the HoneyBook side or for that appointment. Once he's connected, then I do a manager interview, and in that first call, I'm really looking to kind of dive in a little bit more, like what we were talking about with the strategic thinking of what lies beneath the resume, because you can only get so much from those that page. So really kind of understanding, like, what was the background of work that you did? Who did you work with? Like, what did that look like? And being able to kind of paint the picture of how you work as a researcher, and like, what are your expectations as a researcher? Digging a little bit into like the methodologies, a bit of skill set there. But really just trying to define more around the breadth of research, how you work, how you build relationships, and then how you would like connect with the team. Because like I said, like, we have a very collaborative team. We are a team, and also how working in an environment where, like, we are a blend of remote and in office, and our team is definitely one of the teams at HoneyBook that's a little bit more split. So we have our San Francisco office, we have a New York hub, and then we have half of the researchers that are remote. So making sure that it's someone who's able to kind of work in that really cross-functional way, even when we're not always together. Beyond that, we then do an assignment, and the assignment's really just around, again, kind of being able to understand work that you have done and being able to really see those examples. That's done with myself and one of the colleagues, and that's really just trying to gauge, okay, let's like dig even deeper into your work and into how you execute and expectations of execution and what did the outcome look like. Once the assignment's done, we do have a panel, a small panel. There's 3 people on it, and that is each person on that panel. It's not just a like free for all. Each person on the panel really does have like a theme that they're digging into more, whether it's
Can you give an
collaboration.
example of what one of those themes would be?
Yeah, so one person is directly on the research team, and it's really around like collaborating both within the research and the cross-functional, and also how, like, what does their process look like? How do they actually, like, what does that day-to-day piece? I will tell you, and if anyone saw the Learners Conference, you'll know I'm a bit of like a process nerd. We do have a lot of tooling on the team. We have a process, so really making sure that that it's that you'll be able to like work in like the process works well for you, how we work as a team and as a company. So that's like one of them. The other one is really diving into like the market research side and like market audience. How does that really bring like how does your background, is it going to fit into the role and what we're looking for?
Makes a ton of sense. Last call for questions, folks. I want to end with this one, which is, can you give me one thing that would signal to somebody that you're definitely not a fit, and one thing that would signal to somebody, hey, you definitely could be an amazing fit?
So I will say something that would signal not a fit is if I'm continuously hearing, like, okay, I think within market research, we work with consultants a lot, and there's a lot of like outside resources that we're going to rely on, and like whether it's from the quant side or not. I think one thing that if I hear most of the work has been like, if you're a market researcher but you're relying mainly on consultants to do the actual like coding of the survey or the analysis, and like you haven't been involved in the actual like execution of that as much, I would say that would, for this role, is not a fit. It's not to say that's actually how we've worked with market research, how I've worked with market research for a while. But I think like when I'm hearing that from this particular role and not really being involved in like hands-on piece, that would be not a fit. A signal, what was the other one, is like that
What would be a great
like when
fit?
I get like
Like
really excited, right?
yeah, exactly.
I think when I think about this role and what would signal someone that would be a really good fit is, one, like core value alignment with the company is like top of the list. But I think too, it's not like a signal, but it's like that feeling of like the excitement and like someone really wanting to be a part of something new and like really wanting to be up for a challenge in a new space where they have the opportunity to be a problem solver and like get creative within this like open realm, open question. So it's not so much as like a thing again on like the resume or a skill set, but it's that that like underlying feeling of like really wanting to be a part of something new. And I love I love someone who loves like a good challenge put in front of them and is like up for the challenge.
Love it. Nicole, thank you so much for joining, folks. I hope this was helpful for you if you're looking for your next role, to hear directly from Nicole about what this one's all about. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, so stay tuned for more hiring manager AMAs for some of the other roles that are open. We've got Sri Petruvu from Circle coming up. We've got someone who's leading Microsoft AI UX research coming up. So we got a lot more fun ones. And if you have any feedback, if you have any other questions, please reach out to me. And Nicole, I hope I get to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you. And I really appreciate you putting this together.
Our pleasure. All right. See you later, guys.